Let me show you what a sequence is. A sequence would be like this, 2, 4, and you might think I was going to say 6, but I'm not. It's 8, it's 16, comma, dot, dot, dot. And I know you know what's happening. They're doubling. That's not a big mystery. But how do you describe a sequence with math? You don't just say in words, it's doubling each time. There's a fancy way that is on the state's standards. It's also on the ACT test, and I get to teach it to you today, and it is called recursive. So I'd like you to write that word. It'll increase the probability you remember it. Recursive. Now, a recursive sequence refers back to itself. It's like it describes how to get the next term by looking at the term in front of it. So if I said to you, hey, just to get the next term, look at the term before it and times it by 2. It's like you're saying that, except with math. So this could be considered U sub, and I better start with this. U sub 1, U sub 2. Can you guys read those? Yeah. I'll change to red, easier to read. U sub 3, U sub 4. And it's just like saying, this is the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. Okay? So that U is the term. Now, if I just wanted to say, hey, pick a random term, then you'd call it U sub n. And when I'm saying sub, it's subscript. So when I say U sub n, that means that the subscript is n. Well, the one right after that would be U sub n plus 1. And the one in front of that would be U sub n, what? Minus 1. So that is the general naming convention for sequences. All right, so you say that, you're saying whichever term you want. You pick any term. This, relative to the other one, is the one in front of it, and this is the one after it. Okay, now let's look at this term. 2, 4, 6, 8. That's a sequence that started with 2. So everybody underneath it, would you please write U sub 1 is 2. Every time you have to start with what is the first term in our sequence, and that's U sub 1. Question or comment?
I'm wondering what part of the page we're working on, because that's 2, 4, 8, 16.
You're right. So we're doubling each time. So we're going 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. What part of the page were we?
Well, you said 2, 4, 6, 8.
Oh, I know you're thinking 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16,
Yeah,
but
you said that.
I know, and I said, I know you might think I'm about to say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, but instead I'm going to say 2, 4, 8, 16. See, when you see the first 2 terms in a sequence, a lot of people are like, oh, I know what's coming next. He's adding 7, so I'll add 7 to get the next term. But you can't really tell. Maybe I was timesing by 8, and so the next term will be 64. So all I'm trying to say is, by the first 2 terms, you cannot tell what's coming next. You don't know. So what I was trying to say, and apparently I confused you with it, I didn't mean to, was that it might think it's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, blah, 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 but no, it's going to be 2, 4, 8, 16, because this one is timesing by 2 each time. Okay, so back to, let me finish. Here's the end. Everybody write this down. U sub n, that means any random term, is given by U sub n minus 1, and that means the term in front of it. And then, if you want to get to the next term, you have to do what? Well, you got to look and see what happened. It was timesing by 2 each time. So the common ratio, remember that word? The common ratio was 2. If I took 4 divided by 2, that's the ratio between those two, it's 2. If I took 8 divided by 4, it's 2. If I took 16 divided by 8, it's 2. The ratio every single time was 2. So the common ratio is 2. I'm going to put times 2 in parentheses like this. And now, on a Schoology quiz, you wouldn't be able to say u subscript n minus 1. So I'll just, on the Schoology quiz, you'll just put these in parentheses 2. You don't have to do that when you're just writing with your hand, but on a Schoology quiz, you'd put parentheses around that. I might be able to go through and add the answer where there's no parentheses around that, but anyway. Okay, doesn't this look like complicated, but it's really not. It's saying start with this number, and then take, for any term, you take the term in front of it, and you times by 2. So let's see if you can really speak recursive language yet. Don't write this, just watch and pay attention. U sub 1 is 12 this time. U sub n, any term, is given by u sub n minus 1, the term right in front of it. This time I'm going to put that in parentheses. And then no parentheses, because I'm just going to add something this time. Plus 4. Do you know what that sequence looks like? That's kind of the whole goal, is if I give you the equation, can you write the sequence? If I give you the sequence, can you write the equation? It's complicated language, but it's not that hard. U sub 1 is 12. That means this is 12. Everybody take a guess then what the next 3 terms are. It's telling you what to do to get the next term, and then the next term, and then the next term. 12 comma, Strudy, got answers?
16.
16 is correct. How'd you get that?
Add 4.
You just took the term in front and you added 4. And then 20, and then 24. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, cool. So you can already speak recursive. U sub 0, what the heck? Yeah, you can start with sub 0. We're here to sub 0. Superhero. Anyway, sub 0 is 6. That means you start with 6. I might be like, well, but 0's in front. Yeah, it's the earliest term you can use. U sub n equals u sub n minus 1. That means any term is given by the term in front of it. What does parentheses 2 mean? If there's something right up against the parentheses, that means you do what? Multiply. So, would you please write out the first 3 terms of this? After that, you've got the idea, right? So, Taylor, what's the first term of it? Don't get confused by the u sub 0. This is where u sub 0 goes. This is where u sub 1 goes. This is where u sub 2 goes. The very first term, u sub 0, is 6. And then, this means times it by 2. Alexis. 12. And then times it by 2. 24. That make sense? All right. These aren't that hard. They look scary, but they're not that hard. They're just a sequence of numbers. Down the road, what we get into is, what is the sum of the first 6 numbers of this sequence? Well, first of all, you got to write out the first 6 numbers, and then you just got to add them up. All right. So let's go into the notes and see if they walk us through this. Recursion, a process in which each step of a pattern is dependent on the step or steps that come before it. Sequence, an ordered list of numbers, like 2, 4, 6, 8. Term, each number in the sequence is a term. Okay, if I numbered you guys off, I could start with one kid number 1, that might make K1. Kid number 2, K2. Kid number 3, K3. So you might be like K7, whatever you are in here. You're a number in the sequence. But it's not exactly the same, because these actually are going up by a regular amount. All right, a recursive formula is the formula that defines the sequence. That's that thing like this. U sub 1 equals 12. U sub n equals u sub n minus 1. Put it in parentheses or not. Either way is okay. Plus 9. That's saying take the term in front of it and add 9. I feel like you got this. All right, so here they're saying that u sub 1 is 4, u sub 2 is 13, u sub 3 is 22. So what's the 8th term? It's kind of boring, but you just go find the 8th term. Now, is there a way to do it faster? Yes. And to do it, you have to use your calculator. And I don't think everybody has one today, and I don't think I have enough to get everybody one. Okay, so this could be a challenge as we move to the calculator part, but we'll see. What I think we can do is I think I still have a way that you can get to it through your iPad and use a emulator of the calculator. All right, so the 8th term would be what? Well, first let's figure out what's happening. Let's see, like, it looks like they added 9. And did they add 9 again? Yep. That's a common difference then. They kept having a difference of 9. So I just have to add 9, and I can do that in my head. It's 40, and then 49, and then add another 9, 58, add another 9. I like to do it this way. I like to add 10 and then to subtract 1. So 58 would be 68, subtract 1, 67. Does that make sense? U sub 5, 6, 7, that's U sub 8. All right. The nth term would be U sub n. I've already said this multiple times. Let's see if anybody's caught it. So what does U sub n minus 1 mean? Yes?
Whatever the number is defined by the term before it.
The term in front. Or term before, I like it.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. So given these values, write a recursive formula. U sub 1 equals... Parker, what's that first? U sub 1. Good. And then it writes in for you, U sub n equals U sub n minus 1. And then how do I know whether I multiply or add? Well, you just got to look at it. From the first 2 terms, like I told you before, you can't tell for sure. You might think it got multiplied by like 1 point something, or you might think it added something. I think this one was an add something. No, wait, I think it was a subtract something. Lydia, have you figured out what's subtracting each time?
7.
And I can test that by going, is 55 minus 7 really 48? And it is, so you're right. So then I just put minus 7, and then that's it. That's the recursive equation. If you really are getting this, you'd be able to get this, but warning, it's not just adding something each time. Ms. Wallace, how do I start?
U1 equals 4.
Good. And if you thought it was add 2 each time, the second time you checked it, you'd realize, no, that wasn't add 2. So it's not add 2. You know what it is yet? Okay. If it's not adding, because all you got to do is, that's easy to test. You know, like you think it's plus 2, then you add plus 2 again, and up, that didn't work. Then you go times by something. So to do that, you use what's called the common ratio. 6 divided by 4 should be the same as 9 divided by 6. Should be the same as 13.5 divided by 9. I have no idea what that is, but this one and this one come out to 1.5. So I was timesing by 1.5. We make that a little cleaner by just saying parentheses, because you should know that if it's in parentheses, it's getting multiplied by the thing next to it. Parentheses 1.5. How'd I get the 1.5 again? This divided by this. 6 divided by 4. 9 divided by 6. 13.5 divided by 9. They're all 1.5. That's called the common ratio. Okay. So this one's going to go down. That's the first time we've had one going down by like cutting in half each time. U sub 1 is still 100. That's easy. Humphreys, what do you think we put here to make it get half as big each time?
0.5.
Yep. That's it. Feel pretty easy? Okay. We're almost done. Stella, this one. U sub 1. Shouldn't ask you this, is the easy question. But I think you can do the next part too. Have you checked yet whether we add something each time or whether we're multiplying by something each time? I agree, probably adding, because it seems like it's going up about the same amount. So add 10 makes 29. Add 12? Think that's right, Stella? How do you know it's right? And you get 12. Or 43 minus 31, and you get 12. Or 31 plus the 12 makes 43. A lot of times people like to add better than they like to subtract. So plus 12 is definitely the gig, and I would have to mark this one wrong, sadly, because you put it in parentheses. And if you do that, you're saying times by it. So don't put it in parentheses then. Otherwise, you mean times by it. So there. That's it. Isn't this kind of like easy, but yet weird looking? Okay. Cool. So let's see how far they're going to take us on this first day. This one's still the same. It's just saying if the first one's -7, like what are the next few terms? And now they're saying that the n has to be greater than or equal to 2. That's just called the domain of the function. What they're saying is technically this only works starting on the second term. I know that's kind of strange looking there, but it means that you couldn't have the first term unless somebody gives it to you. Think about it. If I said, here's my sequence, 12, comma, what was before it? You can't tell what the first one is. You know, if this is the beginning of the sequence and there's something here and I don't know what, you can't figure out the first term. It only works for U sub 2, which means the little n has to be 2 or bigger. That's what this means. That this only works on the second term. All right, so it started at -7, and what happens? You just add 2. So what's after -7? -5. Add 2 more. -3. Add 2 more. -1. Those aren't that bad, are they? Just adding 2 each time. Okay. This one, you're going to end up just kind of ignoring that. It's just saying the formula only starts working on the second term. And this one's got a parentheses -1/2. That means you're supposed to times it by 1/2 and make it negative. So it starts at 40. Truckee, what happens? Oh, wait, no, you're working on something else. Studer, what happens if I multiply it by 1/2? So what if I multiply by -1/2? Don't overthink this. -20, yep. Lydia, multiply it by 1/2 again. You're actually multiplying by -1/2, makes it +10, good. Multiply it by a -1/2 again. Kennedy? Yup. Okay. So this one, they want the 10th term. You just got to count them and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I guess got to do it a bunch more times. Okay. But what if they started getting nasty like this? They're adding 8 each time. And they want the 28th term. Yikes. That's where it'd be really handy to have a calculator to be able to do this. And you'd start with 20, and then you'd add 7. No, 8. And then you'd add another 8, and then you'd add... No, wait, that's not... sorry, that's subtracting. For some reason I was Convinced I was right. I'm subtracting 2, subtracting 2, subtracting 2, subtracting 2. Okay, I get the idea. I need to just keep subtracting 2. But I don't want to do it 28 times. So how could I do that with a calculator? So, I'm going to just give you the easy way to do that on your calculator if you have your calculator handy. If you start with something like 10, and then you want to add 2, if you add 2 and hit equals, your calculator's done and it just says 12. But if you immediately add 2 again to that answer, your calculator will realize, hey, he just keeps on adding 2. After you've done it twice or even 3 times, then believe it or not, if you just hit equals, equal, it'll know you mean add 2, add 2, add 2, add 2. So once it catches on that you've done something twice exactly the same in a row, it'll keep on doing that every time you hit equals or every time you hit enter. Okay, this is not true of all calculators. This is true of the graphing calculators that most of you guys have. Okay, those graphing calculators, try it once. Start with 10, add 2, hit enter. Then just say add 2, hit enter. And maybe for good measure, add 2 again and hit enter. But then from then on, if every time you hit enter, it'll just automatically go add 2, add 2, add 2, add 2. I'd like you to test and see if that works for multiply. So we'll start with 2, and then you're going to go times 2, enter, and then times 2, enter. And then if you just keep hitting enter, will it keep doubling? I think it does, but you can verify it does? Yay, okay. All right. So see how that'll be a easy way to use your calculator to do this? Now there's a much more complicated way that we may learn on a different day. But for today, Friday, and you all don't have calculators, some of you do. I'm going to just recommend strongly that you try to bring your calculator on Monday. If a few of you forget, I'll be okay. If too many people forget, it gets really complicated. So it would be great if you would just have your calculator on Monday. All right, and now I am just going to skip right to the Schoology Quiz. So everybody open up that Schoology Quiz. And let's do that first problem together so I can make sure you understand how to enter them on the Schoology Quiz. So please, everybody open it. You know I'm going to ask you to open it. It's a Friday. I'm not going to push too hard on you finishing it, but just get it open, please. Unless you're taking the test like 2 of you are. Lydia, could you read me the first problem? U1 equals 20. Keep going.
And then UN equals UN minus 1
Plus 6. Do you know what that means for the terms? It's 20 first and then? And then?
You keep on adding 6.
Yeah, so this will be 32 and then 38 and I can keep going. So Humphreys, what do I have to do on the first question? Just give the first couple terms or how many?
First 4.
Okay. Does it say put commas between them or something or?
They're already.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's an important point to make. So don't type in the commas. All right. I think you've got the idea. Now, when you have to type these into your calculator, it tries to show you there's no way to do subscripts on your calculator. So if you're typing in U sub n, it just looks like UN. To do U sub n minus 1, they put it in parentheses, like that. So for most of your equations, they're going to look like this. UN equals 10. They just don't have subscripts. They're like fully high. They're not sub numbers. And then here, if it's add, fine, that's easy. Or if it's multiply, they'll put it in parentheses. That red number. All right. That went better than I thought it was gonna. And remember that the thing you multiply or divide by is called the common ratio. That's all I got for you for today.